Welcome to the Pantheon Developers Series Mark II. This is our second episode. If you're curious about previous episodes, we have it posted on the not Facebook, but YouTube page, but at the Facebook page as well. We're joined tonight by Ben and Vu of the Pantheon developers of the actual developers of Pantheon. I messed it up a little bit.
Hello.
Oh dear. Thank you for joining us tonight, gentlemen.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Hello. Oh.
Now, starting out here, we can already see on the screen in front of us Vu working on a couple different things. Really quick, Vu, can you tell us exactly what you have going on right now?
Just started adding bigger section of the hallway. I kind of want to transition the dungeon from kind of more a simple entrance, kind of a small entryway into a more of a bigger structured middle area to where there'll be bigger rooms and bigger hallways, and just to give people an idea when they're traveling through the zone, just to have a little bit of recognition through different areas that they pass through and venture through.
Mm-hmm. Before we move on to developments that have happened since we were on air last, one comment Rob and I both had on part of the area you're working on right now, actually, it looks like Galactic Empire-y a little bit, just the color scheme and the grading like that. Tell us a little bit about exactly what this area is and why it has kind of that darker, more strict feel to it.
Well, the beginning stages of the design documents are saying that this is Sunken Sanctum is kind of a morgue that's been kind of taken over. The Nexus, who has a tomb or has a room deep down in the dungeon, is still kind of good, but then there's been forces of different forces that have been overrunning the area with their evil forces, and they've kind of built up the structure around it. And the beginning of it is just kind of where they're roaming, but the middle part is more along the lines of where they're doing their evil empire and building up around it and trying to, I guess, harness the powers around there. But you'd have to ask the designer because they would know more about into it. I'm just kind of touching on the surface of it.
Okay. I hate to waste your time any further because you obviously want to get to designing this place. But when you say you have your design documents that you're just building off of what you were told, how much guidance are you given by the actual concept artist and writers before you start constructing something?
Well, I mean, ideally, in a perfect world, you'd like to have as much done, as possible. You'd like to have I'd like to have each themed out area designed out, maybe with, a few concepts of the architectural style, what story is being told there, who lives there and stuff like that. So the more you have, the better. But a lot of times, just due to right now, the size of the team, the team size is small, and our concept artist is doing some other concepts for trying to get some other concept stuff right now. So right now, I'm just kind of working my way through a lot of design, and it's kind of my bad. I haven't been concepting as much as I have, so I'm not really good at concepting. So a lot of times I just kind of, concept in 3D and kind of look at things and work my way through things visually until I find a good design. That's not the best way to do it, but right now that's kind of how I have to approach it. So.
Okay. All right. We'll let you get to work here. We'll stop taking more of your valuable time. Ben, thank you for joining us as well. You're the PR guy.
Yeah, I do I'm the PR manager for Visionary Realms and Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. Yeah.
One thing I'm really curious about before I ask any other crazy questions, are you the one who actually posts on the Kickstarter?
Yeah. Now, to be fair, I don't necessarily write all of the content that goes on there, but yeah, I'll talk to the team, and we'll kind of have a bit of a content plan as to what we can reveal. So the team will send me some information, then I just kind of format it, put it on Kickstarter. Mm-hmm. It'd be nice to be able to do more with it. We're a little bit limited on what we can actually put on Kickstarter, just in terms of the formatting. But yeah, we're getting all of the information out there as quickly as we can. Vu's crashing his computer.
I know. We had some technical issues last night, and I shouldn't have gotten latest. I can't run the zone. Sorry, guys.
Oh no. Back to what I was asking there. My train of thought. I lost my train of thought.
Oh no.
we had a couple new bits of information come out, some new news blasts come out during the week here since our last broadcast. You guys updated the Cleric and the Dark Knight classes you already talked about. You also gave us more information on the Crusader, on the Rogue as well. You also put out a lot of new races. Taking this apart piece by piece a little bit, can you tell us about the Crusader?
Yeah, the Crusader is it's one of our tank classes, and the team kind of wanted to do something a little bit different with it. With the Crusader, you've got two different specializations that you can choose. One is more of a melee-oriented class, so it's kind of reminiscent of what you'd see as a warrior in other classes in other games. Whereas the Cavalier is more of like a paladin type. The Cavalier is the warrior type, and then the paladin is kind of the traditional paladin.
Hello.
Oh, wait a minute. Do we have another person?
Do we have somebody joining?
Oh, looks like Salim is here.
Oh, Salim's here. Hi, Salim.
There we are. Hey, Salim.
Surprise
I've been
special
here.
guest.
I've been since it started.
How did we not see that?
No problem. I don't have the window big enough to see that, unfortunately.
That's
Oopsie.
what's going on.
Yeah, Blue was responding to my hellos.
Oh, I got you. Do not disturb, dude.
Well, good to have you, Salim.
Yeah,
Now,
go.
See, this is good because I start talking and I worry because with Salim as the director of development, obviously he has a lot more hands in the design of things. So if I give wrong information, then I have to answer to Salim. So.
Salim, really quick, go ahead and introduce yourself to the people that didn't necessarily experience this the first time around.
My name's Salim Grant. I'm the director of development for Pantheon Rise of Fallen.
Oh, there we go. Short and sweet. Fantastic. We were just going through the different updates on the Kickstarter page we've had in the last week. We'll give you a turn to Salim here. What can you tell us about the Rogue character?
Well, the Rogue's the last one we released. The Rogue is Rogue. We had a lot of fun developing the concept for because I wanted to do something a little different. So because the way our system works, where we have kind of these different styles for each core class, we're able to offer people who want kind of the more old school EverQuest style Rogue, with a little bit of the FF11 Thief in there as one style, and then we have what we call a plane shifter or plane stalker. I'm sorry, I can't remember off the top of my head, but where because the way our world works with all these planes and stuff hitting each other, I wanted to play on the magic of the world and just the fact that there's just this errant magic around, and I wanted to have someone who could manipulate that and do something kooky with it. So that particular style of the Rogue can actually do what we call shifting, and he can shift from the physical plane into kind of this nexus mode. And when he does that, he sees all of the anchors and all the power that are attached to whatever his target is. You can see everyone's, and he's able to target and then attack those. Attacking those can do different things. I mean, if you're going up against a caster and you sever the main link to Nexus Magic, they may not be able to cast spells for a while. The cool thing about it in general is that these guys expose themselves to that magic over a period of time, effectively making their physical bodies really, really weak, because they almost live in this kind of like this ether their whole time. So one way we're kind of describing the way we would love it to look is like if you were standing close to one, you're looking at the face, their face would almost be kind of like blinking out of existence, like constantly vibrating or something like that, because these guys are like just constantly shifting in and out of reality. When they're not doing that type of stuff, they stand back and they're like they like to throw blades and stuff like that and kind of phase them to targets. There's a lot of cool imagery attached to the concept, and it was really exciting to come up with that concept. I'm a huge Rogue player. We still have all of the general stuff like stealth and trap detection and things like that, poison making, which is more on the side of the physical Rogue. But I wanted to make a Rogue that did something a little different, and this Rogue is more a debuffer than it is a DPS.
Okay. Guys, we see the questions in chat. R. Flynn, I see your question in chat. I'm going to ask that here in just a moment. I am really curious, though. What is going on with these different planes and different realms? Because when you say a planestalker, I start thinking Magic the Gathering, like those kinds of planeswalkers. What kind of system are you guys putting together here?
It's really just the lore of the world. So Terminus is basically formed from all these planes colliding, or these pieces of planes colliding. So it's just kind of a crazy place. And because of that, you know, we're putting in the stuff like the climate stuff that Brad talks about, where, you know, you walk over here in this area could be an area of fire and things like that, and then you walk right next to it, it could be an area of cold or whatever. Simply because it's the result of a lot of crazy magics coming together, colliding, and, you know, what's produced, you know, could be completely strange. The thing that's nice about it is that when we say planes or other existences colliding, we mean anything. Potentially we could do anything with this lore, and it works. I don't know, you know, if you're a fan of the Palladium Rift paper and pencil.
Yes.
But, you know, in Rift, you could have a Rift open up, and you could have, you know, the Zigtics, I forget what the insects are called.
Zytokicks.
Yes, thank you. You can have them come through. You could have superheroes pop through. You could have, yeah, I love playing Rift because of that, because they actually had a system where all these different, you know, themes could come through and work. With the way that our lore works, we could do the same thing. We're going to stick to the fantasy for it, but it's just kind of a, you know, kind of a snapshot of what we could do and how awesome the lore is in the way that it's written.
What I want to see is a shard of a plane of angry developers and forum trolls.
Wow, what would you guys call that even?
Justice, retribution,
balance. Nope, shouldn't use that word.
No, please don't.
Uh-huh.
Oh God,
It's funny how balance has become a bad word in MMO design, but
it's a point of contention at times, which is difficult to deal with. Are you guys even trying to approach that yet? Or are you just simply trying to make classes their own living things?
What's that? I'm sorry.
Are you approaching balance yet at all, or is it just you really want to make the classes into their own things?
No, we're you know, balance is when we start getting down to nitty gritty. This ability does this. This is how much damage it does over this period of scaling, or however we end up doing it. Really, it's just about getting the concepts. You know, we're trying to be forward thinking with these as possible, while retaining, or while keeping it within the identity we've defined. And like I said, the rogue spun out of the lore we have. If we didn't have this lore, then that idea wouldn't have come to my head. So we're trying to just get these cool concepts that work with the world, while still offering, you know, like I said, you know, rogue's a good example, physical and kind of an ethereal or otherworldly type example. You know, once a high concept's done, you know, getting down to nitty gritty, you know, we'll have to make sure that it can work in a world. Whenever we go over these concepts, that's a question that's in my head, that's in Lenny's head, Jason, our lead programmer's head, is, okay, how can this work? Will this work visually? Will this work in the world? What happens? How fun is this to play over time? You know, I mean, plane shifting, am I going to shift one time and that's it? No. This is how it would work. So we get a little deeper, but as far as balance goes, that's, you know, once we get all the classes worked out, even the classes that are stretch goals, then we would look into the balance stuff.
There was a class question in chat earlier, just a few minutes ago, and again, understandable if you can't say this yet because you haven't released all the classes yet.
Yep.
But is there going to be more than one healer class, and how many healer classes do you plan?
Yeah, there's one more. There's one. It's on the Kickstarter. The second healer class will be Shaman. If we're able to get to it, we would eventually release a druid. So 3 healer classes. There's no plan for any like hybrid healing class right now, but you never know what happens once we start. Like I said, once we start talking about where we could go with a particular class concept. But yeah, we'll have 2 healers, which Shaman is after Wizard, as far as the release schedule goes.
Okay. You guys had a couple other Kickstarter updates during the week. You already talked about Revenant a bit to us, so it won't do any rehashing we need to do. We can go back to it though if people ask. Human, Dwarf, and Elf. Those are new updates for us though. Can you tell us about those races?
Oh man, you guys need Tony for this stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say Tony being our lore master. We spoke about him on the last show too. He's really he's got all these storylines etched out for the different races and how they came to be on Terminus and how they intermingle with each other. It's really kind of a complex storyline, and in fact, he's started to touch on that at lorelibrary.com. He with some other members actually of the community as well are posting some letters of war and some more lore on what's actually happening in Terminus. It's definitely a good read. There's a lot of cool stuff up on there. So if you get a chance, head over to lorelibrary.com and catch up on that.
Looking over this website here,
I have a question.
Oh, let's do it.
Wait, how do I see the chat?
If you just go to the Twitch page, it should be right on the right-hand side of the screen.
Don't forget to mute the audio.
Yeah. Otherwise, confusion will occur in droves.
And if the chat's not there should be at the upper right-hand corner of the page a little arrow that you can press, and it'll pop the chat out.
All right.
Ruiner had a question while you're getting that out real quick here. We're all aware the game is going to be challenging and group focused. Does that mean one single junk enemy requires a group to take down and feels very dangerous? Or will it be like WoW and other MMOs where they aren't as difficult?
It's group centric. It's like EverQuest or FF11 or whatever. The lower level mobs, you might be able to get out there and do some soloing. It's not overly efficient to do that. And depending on your class, you might be able to solo better than other classes if you want to take on that challenge. But in general, it's not a good idea to solo simply because we're not splitting group experience, and mobs will be balanced towards groups. So yeah, the random trash mob in a zone or wherever you're running, if he aggroes you while you're running by, if you stop and try to fight him, if he's an even con or higher, you probably are not going to do very well against him. If you do, you'll barely survive. So yeah, it's very group focused. Like I said, the first few areas will be a little lax. Mobs won't have access to a bunch of abilities and stuff like that they would have as much like a player won't.
Although snakes will be able to kick.
Yes, snakes will kick. They'll even drop boots. So yeah, it'll get progressively more and more hard line towards where you need a group even for the basic stuff. How quickly that ramps up, obviously we have to determine once we start working out our progression system.
Okay, do you want to keep taking questions in the chat, because there are quite a few people asking questions?
Yeah, I need the link. Sorry.
Oh no, that's just fine.
I am ill prepared.
That is you joined us a little late. You've been busy. I don't blame you.
Well, technically, this is actually my fault because he was pinging me saying, "Okay, I'm on the stream," and I just had my notifications off because I didn't want excess noise coming through the speakers. So he has been telling me, I'm here. I just didn't see it.
That is the stream. Just a couple really quick questions to go through. Will there be blood mages? This is directed specifically at Salim. Are there going to be blood mages?
the Blood Mage concept specifically, I mean, Blood Mage is basically just the healing side of the EverQuest Necro at its core. That concept could go in the game. Right now, I couldn't say specifically that we will have a Blood Mage, but the notion of that type of healer, I mean, our Cleric has a cloth side to it, where it summons pets and things like that, but the notion of transferring Vitae and stuff like that to heal as your core focus. Right now, we don't have a class spec for that, but there's a couple classes we're still designing. So I can't say no right now, and I can't say yes.
This was just kind of neat. Just going back to the chat channel, people were saying, "What's he making? Is he making an arrow?" Speaking of Vu's work, is he making an arrowhead? What is that? And then when it fits in like that, you see, oh, it's a part of the window. I just love that kind of stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah. Seeing that's the best part about this, seeing the individual components put together, because a lot of this stuff is made out of things you wouldn't expect it to be made out of, random bits of geometry. But then when all of them come together and they actually mesh properly, you suddenly see it pop out at you.
Yeah, the more you can reuse stuff and actually kind of hide the fact that you're reusing it, it's more efficient, and in the long run, the game's just going to run better and everybody will benefit from it.
And I would assume sometimes that, because I just saw you adjusting the texture of the bars there, sometimes that reusing could also be just simply shifting the texture on it to give like more variety, rather than.
Yeah, well, I had a different texture on it than with matching this window. So if I would have kept that texture, it would have been, if I would have used this without that other element there, then it would have been calling on that texture, and then you would have had the engine would be calling on that. That would have been an extra draw call on the texture. So the more you can reuse, the better.
Luxor had a really quick question associated with the stretch goals. If a publisher does end up funding the title, and again, if you can't answer this because you don't know or you don't feel comfortable answering, that's fine. What will happen to the stretch goals, though, if a publisher does end up funding the game?
So the stretch goals, they'll go into the game. We just need to get the money for them. So if a publisher comes through, angel investor, whoever, one of you guys wins a lottery and comes to my house and drops off a briefcase.
It'll be I'm
not gonna tell you about it, Vu, but either way, those stretch goals will get into the game. The key thing about the Kickstarter is that it's just that it's a kickstart. It's to get us going, and if we don't get an investor but we get funded, we're going to continue to let people donate towards getting those goals achieved. That's not to say that if we get the time or something like that, if we if we get the time or we throughout development, we find that, hey, we can actually throw the gnome in, or we can do this, that, and the other because things worked out so well, then they'll go in. But right now we're saying based on an estimation of design time, man hours, things like that's the money we need to put those things in and give them the right attention. That's why crafting is at a higher level and things like that. But yeah, I mean, we want to get all those in. I think in order to make a full game, that those things need to eventually be in, especially when it comes to the classes and the races. I'm a gnome fan. The fact that gnome is not a launch race makes me upset. So you guys, please give me my gnomes, for the love of God.
Salim's actually a gnome in real life. But the thing to understand too is with the stretch goals and all of these things, believe it or not, we're not actually shooting for just 800K like we have on our goal for the Kickstarter. Our goal is to get the proper funding that we need to include all of this. But we also wanted to be completely transparent. We wanted to say, okay, if we end up getting only this amount, this is what we can do. But that's not our intent. We don't intend to stop there. We intend to keep going so that all of this stuff can be included. We just have to be, like I said, we just want to be transparent and clear about the costs associated with each thing. So if there's any way possible, we're definitely going to be shooting to have those things in for launch. We just can't say that yet because we don't know where our funding levels are going to be.
Mm-hmm. Now, what is going on with the Kickstarter right now? Where are you guys with that?
We passed 320 today. Where are we right now? We're at 322 right now. 2,460 backers, so we're looking good. Still spreading the news. We had some more coverage today on VentureBeat/GamesBeat today. That was great to see. Brad's going to be doing another AMA. I put out an update today, and I left it open to the players and to the community to decide when he does that AMA. Last time we did it, there were a few concerns that it was during work time for some people, others weren't at home time to get to it. So we're asking the players when they would prefer to have it done. So so hopefully the next one we can get scheduled to accommodate more people's time schedules. Some other stuff coming up. We're constantly doing these kinds of pushes, talking to more people. I sent out a whole bunch of emails today, reaching out to a whole bunch of different networks and people with communities and whatnot. And our community is doing excellent as well. I mean, they're spreading the word as far as they can. So we're really getting this kind of support that we need to make it to there. 18 days to go, so we still have to get just under $400,000 more, or just under $500,000 more. But we can do it.
I also notice here that your team has also collaborated with Richard Garriott, Lord British of Shroud of the Avatar.
Yep. Yeah. So what was happening there was we were just kind of thinking of more ways that we could reach out, and Brad's like, I really want to talk to Richard Garriott about this, and so he ended up sending him an email. And as it turns out, Richard was already talking to his team, trying to figure out things that they could do to help us out as well, which was just great to hear. So when the team heard that, it's like, wow, this is awesome. So the initial plan there was we wanted to get something that both communities could enjoy. So we have this cross promotion cloak. So if you pledge to both games, then you'll get a cloak. Symbolizing kind of the community of the MMO genre as a whole between both games. So in Pantheon, you'll be able to wear an emblazoned cloak that has the symbol of Shroud of the Avatar and the crest there. And if you're playing in Shroud of the Avatar, you can wear a Pantheon-themed cloak. So that's pretty cool. Talking about more options that we can do, none of it's really been confirmed yet, but there's some pretty cool ideas banging around, so hopefully we can get some more stuff ironed out. But we're pretty excited about the opportunity. I mean, they have an awesome team over at Portalarium over there, so we're looking forward to it.
I'm also looking at related videos associated with Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. I see MMObuff.tv actually did a full 2-hour-long episode covering that. Was that recent?
That one was a little bit earlier on. We're trying to schedule another opportunity with MMO Buff. We also have some more interviews with other outlets as well. We're reaching out to more YouTubers and such as well. The really big one that everyone seemed to enjoy was Brad's interview with Boogie2988. That one went over quite well. If you haven't gotten a chance to see that one yet, definitely check it out. Go head to the Kickstarter. It's linked on there. Actually, you can play it right from the Kickstarter. That's a really good one as well. But yeah, the MMO Buff guys, they've been awesome. What I like about those guys is that they're just they're down to earth and they're all about the community, which is really what our mantra has been too. I mean, this whole experience has been really humbling and just an awesome experience getting in touch with the community at the level that we've been able to get in touch with them. Like, I mean, having all of these guys reach out saying, what can we do to help, and then seeing what they do is just, it's really humbling. It's just been an incredible experience.
And it appears the dragon is on stream now.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Work on the dragon has begun.
Yeah, if this isn't a character in the game, if it doesn't make it in the game, then I'll just have a statue. Make him a statue. He'll get in the game somehow.
It will be in there somehow. You guys will see it.
Now, a quick question. What type of cloth physics does the Unity engine have? And could that be used for, like, the actual wings of the dragon?
I don't know. I would not be the one to ask her that right now. We'll have to ask Jason later on. We could take note of that and have him try to relay that information next week.
I can try to find out. Go ahead.
R. Flynn had another question there for you, Salim.
Yep.
Will there be something called day-long quests? He referenced Greystone and saying it's one of the finest day-long dungeons he's ever played. Greystone is from Vanguard.
Yeah. Well, I know Greystone. I don't remember all the content for that dungeon. But if it's a quest that is somehow forcing you to spend a bunch of time in a place, or if it just the dungeon itself requires a day's worth of assuming a day is about 8 hours or 12 hours worth of going through. I mean our focus on less quests and that are higher quality would kind of tend itself to having more stuff like that. If anyone played Vanguard's familiar with the Griffin Mount quest, those types of quests I want to see. And I mean, that's quests that I concepted out and helped to implement. And a lot of people say that that's one of the coolest quests that they've ever gone on. So more stuff like that is stuff that we would focus on in our game, and less of the kill 10 rats, if that even exists at all.
That was something that was kind of big too, the whole Griffin quest, because the anticipation for it to begin with was quite large, because everybody knew that there was going to be flying mounts in the game, and everybody was really waiting for a flying mount quest, and then eventually the quest got put in, and like you said, it was received quite well, and that was Salim, like you said, mainly responsible for the etching out of the idea there.
Another question here from the chat. Before I do that, actually, reminder, folks, go to the Kickstarter link right below this video. If you're watching on YouTube, the link is in the video itself. It's in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen through this entire video. Grab that link. If you haven't already supported the Kickstarter, go and support this, guys. This is a great MMO effort. It's exciting. You get to see it made right in front of us. You never get to see this. This is unprecedented. So please support this Kickstarter, guys. They do have a little bit left to go, so anything is appreciated right now. Question, like I was saying here, the question from Raphael is there going to be a plan for mentoring and sidekicking? This is a reference to superhero game, and I don't remember which it is.
Champions Online, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a plan for anything like that?
Not saying anything's off the table. Our progression system right now that we're looking at is a little different, so the need for that type of stuff may not be necessary. Like I said, we're not splitting group XP. We're talking about less levels and just kind of a different way that you progress. So anything like brotherhood systems or mentoring or any of that stuff, it's all on the table for consideration. It's just we have to make sure that it fits within what we're trying to do progression-wise. We may be resolving the issue that those particular systems are trying to mitigate. And if we can do that, then we don't need to spend time implementing a whole other system on top of our core system. So yeah, I once again, I can't say yes or no because it's something that needs to be evaluated.
Mm-hmm. I think that takes care of the questions I saw in chat right now. Rob, you've been relatively quiet this whole time, and I can only assume you've been holding some stuff back here, waiting for a moment where I'm not speaking. Any thoughts you wanted to share so far?
Well, I'm really liking how the dragon's looking. Like I was asking earlier with the cloth physics, I could just see like the in between areas of the dragon's wings having kind of a dynamic look when it's animating. Which that was mainly my thought on that. And then just slowly getting more development on there of the actual dragon's head and everything. It's looking really cool.
Oh yeah, I'll get you an answer on the cloth physics. Jason's doing something. He'll let me.
Okay.
He'll let me know.
So what is that tool that you're using now, Vu? Is that just kind of smoothing things out, or?
It's ZBrush. It's just the basic standard kind of push and pull. Usually the ZBrush pros, after they the sculptors, a lot of them tell you they just end up using about 4 brushes usually. And when you're doing sculpting, it's just kind of like pushing and pulling and forming and stuff. But there are other brushes that help do more of the complex procedures, but for the sculptings, you really don't need too many different brushes.
Would you ever consider making this into a mount for people to ride in game? It was a suggestion from chat. I'm not sure how possible that is, but would it possibly be on the table?
You would have to. I wasn't sure what the decisions are on the mount, but if that's what people want, I don't have any objections.
Yeah, we plan to have mounts for sure. Whether we let you ride a dragon, it would probably be about as epic a feat as getting Griffin in Vanguard was, or even more to the point, like I think it was Lineage 2, where you had to get a dragon egg and raise it and things like that before you could even get a dragon mount. The only problem with the dragon mount is that right now flying mounts are not a part of our plan at all. So I wouldn't want you to have a dragon that just walks on the ground, at least not a winged one. But
I'm seeing in comments whale mount. Not currently planned, but I do like the idea.
There was a question about how loot will function. He references EverQuest and other games associated with it. There is a couple notes on the Kickstarter, if I remember correctly, on how loot will work. I think it said something like, if you actually see the loot on a mob or a character, he will be able to drop it.
yes.
Can you tell us more about that system? Because I love that actual physical reality of a game, of saying, no, it's not just sitting in a bag somewhere. It's on him, and you can have it if you kill him.
Yeah, I mean, that's how EverQuest worked. Mobs would spawn with loot in their table, and if they could equip it, they would equip it, and it would show on them. Armor didn't show, but their weapons would be in their hand. So yeah, we plan on doing the same thing. It only makes sense, simply because the mob's like, yeah, I've got this breastplate. Whatever advantages this breastplate can give, I have them. Instead of them just sitting in some weird chest that suddenly spawns or is just in my inventory. I wasn't using it. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Plus, you knew which spawn had the loot and had some cash to go after.
Yep.
Is the loot table in that respect going to be just a standard loot table, or do you have any ideas for, like, depending on how you defeat the mob, certain loot will drop? Kind of simulating the idea that you've actually damaged certain pieces of gear depending on how you attack the mob.
That's kind of a neat idea.
We actually are specking out I don't know if any of you have played Monster Hunter before, but I and a couple other designers on the team are gigantic Monster Hunter fans. And this dragon's actually a good example. What we really want to see happen, at least with some encounters, is being able to sever the tail or cut off the wings or things like that, and then loot those things separately and use use those pieces, go to a vendor or whatever, pay some money or whatever, eventually use crafters for it, to build pieces of armor, weapons, whatever, that are themed after that particular creature. So it may take on the look of it. If it's a dragon, maybe it's a sword that has its scales and stuff on the back of it, things like that. Maybe the blade is carved out of its talon. We definitely want to do that stuff. I can almost say that we will do that. How far spread that is, don't know. I mean, the average random mob, you probably won't be cutting off its arms and things like that. But on top of that, it could be a key part of the encounter. I mean, cutting off the dragon's tail, he no longer can do a tail slash. He just can't do it. So there's strategy behind it, but there's also just that notion of, I need the tail. I need to get that tail, and we got to cut off that tail. So yeah, definitely want to do that type of stuff.
It sounds like you guys have really been exploring the concept of actual physically putting things in the game instead of the abstract, okay, well, this loot's been in this mob's bag and now you get to loot it, or this mob just gets to cast this sort of spell no matter what. Has that been a reoccurring theme for you guys, or is that just touch and go?
It was in one of the interviews. What do they call it? Context aware.
Mm-hmm.
Context aware.
Context aware loot or something like that.
Yeah.
And I mean that particular phrase was just pointing out that bears drop pelts and they don't drop swords. Which, yeah, I mean we're gonna do that type of stuff.
Yeah, you might find a boot inside a bear, but you wouldn't want to wear it.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the fact when the examples I give is, you kill a rat, he, can get his tail or whatever. But if you fight a gigantic rat, he may have a sword in his belly along with the body of your friend. So I mean, you depends on the creature. I wouldn't say that killing a dragon you'd loot a sword from him, because dragons are hoarders. They have a treasure room. You may now be able to take treasure from the big pile of gold they're sitting on, or take their scales or whatever from that. So yeah, we're focused on doing that type of stuff when it comes to loot.
It looks like Vu's taken actually a class in dragon anatomy. With the detail there.
It's amazing to watch. I've never had an opportunity to watch someone do this kind of 3D shaping and rendering live. I've always been interested in it, but I've never been able to do it myself, and never been able to watch someone do it. How intricate is this? Is this some of your more detailed work, Vu, or is this still more base level compared to some of the stuff you have to deal with?
Well, this is actually, I wanted to go to school to do characters, and I got hired out of school before I even got the chance to go to the art school I wanted to go to. So I ended up doing a lot of environment stuff, and I got good at that. So I ended up being pigeonholed doing environment. So I never really got a chance to explore characters, and so this is going to be actually my first character that I'm doing in the game. So you guys can experience that with me.
This is kind of a side project for you for the game itself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking a character class right now at Noman, which is a good school. So I'm learning some stuff through there, and they're giving me some principles on just how how to perceive it and to achieve the goal the way I want to, with the process that has been handed down through their schools for a long time. So they encourage you to kind of flesh them out as best as you can at low detail. Then you could gradually increase its detail here and smooth them out, like I'll do right here. And later on, then you could do all the scales and stuff like that. So it's better to flesh them out at low detail. But this is something that I've wanted to do, and I'd like to be able to do characters and environments too.
Building off that question, who is it that asked this? Debase ROTF. Yes, that's the person who asked that. They're asking when, and this may be a question for Salim or Vu, I'm not too sure. When will we start seeing the actual character models themselves start to be developed?
What is the best? I'm trying to make sure I am getting the crux of the question. When development is like in full swing, I mean, right now the beauty of like Unity Engine is that we can kind of get a head start on some things. So depending on our team size and things like that and money, we can actually purchase a lot of our models that someone else has done, and then from there we can modify them to fit into our art style, which gives us a huge head start, and the number of artists required is reduced. So full-on development of character models, whether they be from scratch or not, it would happen after funding, after we've worked out our plans. We're still going through and working on schedules and things like that right now. The best I could say is shortly after funding starts, or after development really starts. Right now, what Vu's done, I think he talked about it earlier, is Vu just wanted to get in there. He wanted to learn Unity, and Vu having the chops that he has based on the dungeons he's done in EverQuest, it only made sense to let this guy who has an affinity for it just go in and make a dungeon, and that's how Sunken Sanctum was born. Normally, it would be a designer would write up. When I did dungeons, I would big out some graph paper, much like I'm doing a D&D campaign, and I would draw a dungeon out, and then that would be given to the art team, and they would stub out the geometry, but they'd also have story. They'd have what NPCs need to be in there, so they have a general idea thematically what it needs to look like, and that's how we would approach dungeon design from then on. So character models will probably be developed for a dungeon or an area as the designers come up with their plan. But of course, we'd also have general ones. We know we're going to have rabbits and bears and all that type of stuff. So those things would be developed. But
He wants penguins.
Dude, penguins are awesome.
There's a penguin plane, in fact, that has collided with Terminus, and
we're gonna put in a penguin cannon for people.
Yep.
But yeah, so they'll be developed, as a part of once we start like hardcore development.
Okay. There were a couple different loot questions, but looking back to the chat log there were a couple different loot questions going on after you talked about how the basics of the loot system would work there. A couple people were asking the rarity of certain drops, how rare items are going to be, how random they're going to be, what kind of specialized loot will we see, like the stuff that was in EverQuest with crafted or Lambent armor or Wormslayer, etc. Can you tell us any more about that stuff?
The sky's the limit with that stuff. It really, as long as once we have finalized our itemization schema, which is going to be kind of a hybrid between what I was talking about earlier, where it's kind of the Monster Hunter thing, and just normal loot drops. Once we finalize that, and we've really worked out our power curve, the frequency of loot will just come out of that. We'll definitely have things like global drops, and standard loot tables, and definitely rolls on tables, and pretty straightforward stuff. But how much loot there is in the world, we don't want a bunch of just generic loot constantly dropping. We want loot to have an identity. We want people to remember the names of their items. I got to go on Blackstone the other night. Holy crap! Pigeon was up. I happened to find her. I got a GBS, and now I'm sitting here offline, like just thinking about the fact that I got this super cool item. We want people to be able to name the loot that's on them, because upgrades are not so frequent that you just kind of forget the thing that you're swapping out, and B, because that just makes your character, it gets you closer to your character in general, right? Mm-hmm. I remember when I was playing EverQuest, my guild leader got the robe off of Khazak Thul in the Fear Plane, and he logged out for the night, and then 2 hours later he logged back in, and he's like, and people were like, well, what are you doing? I go to work. He's like, I just can't. I had to log in. Like, he's like, I'm so excited that I got this robe, and the robe was a significant upgrade, but also just what it meant. Like, for him, it was you guys got together, and when it dropped, none of the casters rolled on it, because it's like, hey, what, Baramos, there you go. So it was that was cool, and we want to bring back that type of stuff.
I can't tell you how many times I've done that too. Just log in the next day and just sit there and stare at the stats of your item, and just like kind of scroll out and turn the camera around, just staring at it. And it's you don't get that often in MMOs, but
no.
was.
I remember when my guild was doing Zul'Gurub. It was week 3 after it had been released, and it was week 4, and we got the final boss in Zul'Gurub down for the first time ever. Our first kill on it. Bam! Zinrock drops, really big 2-handed sword. I win with my bid, and I'm just like, I am taking this into every single battleground. So that kind of joy is just something wonderful for developers to focus on. I love that.
For those asking, yeah, raid loot. There's no reason for raid loot not to be tradable. I am of the belief that the more effort you have to put in to get an item, the more control you should have over your item. That's your item. So, EverQuest, a lot of raid loot was tradable. Things like epics and stuff, we obviously wouldn't make those tradable, but yeah, I mean, I don't see any problem with it being tradable.
Well, the one thing that you do have to watch is you don't want to make it so commonly available that it becomes, just something to farm, so people don't get a chance at getting the item and are able to, just sell it for a profit. So there's some balance they have to. Oh, I used the bad word again. That balance word.
Careful. Very dangerous. Going back to the Kickstarter page here. There were a couple other updates, if I remember correctly. Ben, if you know exactly what I'm thinking of here, let me know, because I could have sworn I saw some new things.
I'm sorry, man. Yeah. So what did we touch on? We touched on the Portalarium stuff. We touched on the Boogie 29888 video. That was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
The AMA.
I remember now. It was the update you guys did to the 2 previously released classes. I wanted to just touch on those really quick. We already went through classes, so I'm like, yeah, no, we don't need to talk about that, but we probably should just quickly touch on that. What were the updates to each class?
Wasn't that just adding the?
Yeah. What had happened was we had the lore and the design of the first 2 classes ready, so we sent that out, and then we were getting feedback from the community. It's like they wanted to know more of the roles and kind of how the character would play. And so looking through that, we realized, okay, yeah, we didn't include that kind of information. So from the 3rd class, I forget what it was, onwards, we started including that information. So we went back and did it for the other 2 as well. So we were able to more clearly define the role and the style and the specializations of the classes that were already posted.
I got an AFK like 20 seconds, guys.
20 seconds. We'll be timing him.
Bio BRB.
Diablo loot has been discussed a couple different times, and after having heard you guys speaking for the last couple of weeks here, I really don't feel like that's the style you guys are going. You're going for the more, all right, it's existence, it's concrete, it's visible. It's not randomly generated loot on all the things. Anything could drop anything.
Yeah, it's not. The initial plans aren't really to have sort of what's the word? Sort of stat quota, where you have a certain amount of points, and then the game just automatically generates stats for the item based on that quota. It's everything's going to be clearly defined. It's going to be designed from the ground up. The stats are going to be taken into careful consideration. One of the discussions that we had a little while ago was some of the stuff that used to drop in early days of EverQuest were things that like a paladin would get some armor out of fear that had like intelligence, which was useless to a paladin.
Yeah.
So that sort of thing probably not going to happen. Every piece of loot is really going to be thought out, and it's going to have a purpose to the class that's carrying it.
I wouldn't say it was useless. I mean, intelligence had a purpose, right? It affected proc rate and stuff like that. So
it's not the main stat that paladins are looking for.
Ultimately, when it comes to stats, I want to see more of a throwback to that type of stuff where every stat has some sort of value. And I don't want to have primary and just secondary stat setups. That stuff feels like you're more limiting a person. If someone wants to break out, it's the same as a solo thing. If someone wants to challenge themselves or find some way to do it, then more power to you. Go ahead and do it. It's in the case of soloing, it's probably not going to be the norm. But in the case of loot, I would love to be able to put out a paladin type breastplate that has a chunk of intelligence on it, because we've found that there are some people who just like running with intelligence for this reason. So hopefully once we get to nitty gritty of stats, you guys are silly. We're able to kind of bring back some of the EverQuest oddness with things like charisma and intelligence and things like that being somewhat useful. So if you got them, you didn't really complain, unless you realized that you were losing some of your more important stats for it.
Mm-hmm. What was? I had another question that I thought I lost it. Good one, Dan. Oh dear.
You guys are funny.
What was it? It was an important question too. One of our viewers had messaged me with it, and I can't find it anymore.
Bad
host. I will say this: if you guys haven't gone over to the Kickstarter yet, and despite what Hideo said, the link is right below the video here on the Twitch page. It is also, if you're watching on YouTube, it is in the video itself. It is the Kickstarter link in the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Go to it if you haven't contributed yet. If you haven't been a part of this project yet, it is a fantastic project. Do so right now.
And I'll
It is
post the
so
link in the
important to
chat as
contribute.
well.
There we go. Thank you, Rob. There is also, I've been looking over the other websites that have been mentioned so far. Lore Library in particular. This looks just fantastic. I really
Yeah,
Rob,
that's an example of just how much the community has reached out. Tony's had been in touch with people over there for quite some time, and they do all sorts of great stuff over there. And anyway, they were talking to Tony about Pantheon, and Tony wanted to do something with them. And it's just been great having this kind of community involvement throughout the whole thing. So they were able to hatch out a plan and then a story, and then start working on some of the lore bits coming through there. So and I mean, that's the kind of thing that we want to keep on doing as well. Just keeping people involved. It's we're not making a game just for us. We're making a game that the community wants to play and wants to be a part of. So keeping that in mind for pretty much everything that we're doing. If you want to design a dragon, let us know.
they're a little ahead of you.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the chat. So a couple people are bringing up stuff about legendary drops. So, and I said this before, but just in case you guys missed it, that the notion of like global rare drops or things like that, yes, we will have those. I love those. Anyone who knows from Vanguard, I am a huge proponent for that type of stuff, especially if you're, the type of person that's going to sit in a spot and just kill stuff all day. I think that chance of getting something super awesome, without having to go deep into a dungeon, even if it's super rare, is cool, and that lets us designers make really kooky items, knowing that there might be one or two in the world at any given time. So that stuff will definitely exist.
Sure. Last question for the evening, as we are coming up on 8 p.m. EST. Do you guys have a plan yet for subscription structure, or how players are going to stay updated monthly for the game?
Our plan right now is to do monthly subscription. Whatever that price is, don't know. I mean, the game comes out in 3 years, so that number can change. So we really haven't discussed the number. But yeah, that's about it. We've toyed with the notion of maybe considering a paid beta. So if we want to get the game into people's hands earlier and get them excited about it, we'd let you pay monthly for a beta, but there would be a discounted price. And once we launch, you would retain that price. But you'd also be helping us because you'd be in the beta. We're trying to have a decent length beta. So we're toying with a lot of stuff, but in general, it would be a monthly subscription fee. No notion of free to play, and we want to, we like the subscription model a lot more. We don't want to have to put an in-game store in your face or things like that. We want people to be able to just play the game. If we do offer something for purchase, it'd probably be outside of the game, and it'd be fluff stuff.
And as a reminder, guys, there is a $1 a year subscription fee if you donate a minimum of $250 to the Kickstarter right now. It goes through all the rest of the higher tiers, but $250 is the minimum for that. $1 a year subscription for the rest of your life.
Yes.
Perfect. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Where can people go to find out more about Pantheon other than just the Kickstarter?
There's tons of places. There's all sorts of. We've been getting great press coverage. So places like MMORPG.com, 10 Ton Hammer, ZAM, Massively, Curse. We actually announced an official partnership with Curse as they're working on the official wiki. Apart from that, I mean, and all sorts of other networks have been great. PJPantheon.com is a wonderful community over there as well. Just tons of stuff all over the place. If you Google Pantheon, you'll find some really cool sites to go to.
Fantastic.
And we keep up with all of them as best we can. So don't be surprised to see us popping into places like that and answering questions as we have time to.
You guys really do love your community. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing this in the first place.
No, absolutely.
Fantastic. Ben, Vu, Salim, thank you so much for joining us once again for the Pantheon Developer Series for our second episode. Appreciate you guys taking the time to be here.
Well, thanks for having us. And next week, Vu, if we're able to schedule it, if we have the time, I hope that we do, but we'll maybe get to see more of this dragon created next week.
I may not be available next week because my family is having a ski trip in Mammoth, and I've been jonesing to do some snowboarding. So I'll let you know.
That is not approved. That's not approved.
Yeah, I'm gonna do some jumps, try to get some air.
Sweet.
I'm kind of jealous. I haven't snowboarded in so long. That's good times right there.
I don't have the legs for it. I'm afraid I'd break something.
No, I'm not going to make a comment about his gallbladder.
Hey. We don't talk about things that don't exist anymore.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Thank you for joining us here on twitch.tv/The Rob and Dan Show and youtube.com/The Rob and Dan Show. We appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this video and for donating to the Kickstarter. You do not get anything less than 110% for your money when you go and donate to the Pantheon Rise of the Fallen Kickstarter. For Rob, I have been Dan.
For Dan, I have been Rob.
That's the Pantheon Developer Series Mark II. Good night now.